Right, Arsenal head to Old Trafford then, 16 points behind Liverpool after they came from behind to beat bottom of the table Southampton at Anfield. Arne Slot's side are now just 6 wins away from a record equalling 20th league title, and of course that equals the record with their arch rivals Manchester United. They're unbeaten in 25 league games now at Liverpool, and they did have to come from behind against Southampton, but did that win yesterday seem slightly inevitable?
Some of the fans were chanting after the game, excuse my voice, Arne Slot, Arne Slot, Arne Slot, 16 clear in second gear, Arne Slot.
OK. You did that really well, but well done.
They're right. They were in second gear that
yes,
first
they
half.
Were, certainly.
The work rate was criticised by Arne Slot, and he could spot it even from his place up in the director's box. He changed it like he always seems to, and they got the points. So I think it was significant because it's the beginning of an important run of games, which could be mentally significant, I think, for Liverpool. And you wouldn't really bet against them going the rest of the season winning maybe every game. And if they do that, we know that they have to give a guard of honour to Arsenal if they win the next 6, and if they win all the remaining games, they'll win the title on 97 points, with the significance of that number at Liverpool. So that might even be one of their targets.
Gosh, yeah, that's an interesting point, Gary, yeah. Look, Mo Salah, now the joint 5th highest scorer in Premier League history, alongside Sergio Aguero on 184 goals. Can there actually be, Darren, any doubt about them giving him a new deal? Or is this kind of as good as it gets? Can he get any better?
Yeah, it's a really good question because the instinctive thing on the back of what he's done so far this season, a legacy season, 31 goals, 25 of them in the Premier League, 22 assists. He's been outstanding, even though, in a way, yesterday's game kind of, I don't want to say flattered him. He scored 2 goals, but there were 2 penalties. He wasn't as influential and impactful in the game as he has been. He did look a little bit leggy yesterday and in the PSG game the other day. I just think in terms of what happens with him, it's very interesting because it's reignited with all of the numbers taken care of now. It's reignited the debate as to whether he should stay. And Robbie Fowler is in the papers today saying, and I quote, "Do I believe Liverpool should give Mo Salah whatever he wants this summer? The obvious answer is yes. The simple reason is because if he was to leave, then he'd leave for nothing, and that means the club would have to spend £100 million or £150 million on a player not guaranteed to do as well. And then there's the wages." But here's the thing. Liverpool, as much as anybody, any club in the Premier League, they look at the numbers, the impact. They're not driven by sentiment. That's why this thing has lasted for so long.
Yeah.
And they tend to look at the numbers. Is he, as you say, at his peak? Could he maintain it? Could he sustain it? Could we see these numbers for another season? He's only ever gone up, hasn't he, since he's been at Liverpool? Or is this the plateau? And they're the questions that they will have to wrestle with on the inside. It's very easy for us to sit here and say, he's brilliant, give him what he wants. Otherwise, you've got to spend big money to get someone else. But you'll have to spend big money to keep him. So I think that it's really a question of which way you want to go.
He doesn't look like he's going to slow down any time soon, does he? It's ridiculous, the form he's in at the moment.
I was reading an interview, Slaven Bilic, who's had a couple of head coach roles in Saudi Arabia. First of all, he said no one really knows how close he came January window a year ago, so just over a year ago, to coming to Saudi Arabia. A lot of that apparently was to do with his relationship with Jurgen Klopp. He wanted out of the club because of the relationship with Jurgen Klopp. So that issue has been solved. But Bilic called him the best striker in the world, the best number 10 in the world, and the best winger in the world.
Goodness
and
me.
if you've got that already at your club, and maybe some people would agree with that, maybe not many would disagree, that you've got to do your utmost to keep the player there. Saudi Arabia, there'll be people maybe telling him, think about it carefully. Jordan Henderson came away from there. Others seem to be leaving as well. And I was wondering, in terms of him looking tired, Darren, it's Ramadan at the moment.
It is,
obviously, he's a Muslim. Can't take on water during games if they're afternoon kickoffs. During training as well. I know it's not as hot as it gets in the summer, but even so, could that be a factor with him looking tired, do you think?
Well, listen, speaking to people who know far more than me, I think there are a number of examples of players that have actually done well. There was a UFC fighter last night who was able to win his bout. There was a player who came on for Swindon yesterday and scored a couple of goals to help them back into the game. He'd been fasting previously as well. So although it's a consideration, I think there are lots of examples of players who perform. You know, you think about Mazraoui last week for Manchester United, terrific against Fulham. There are lots of examples of players doing well during Ramadan because they adapt their bodies to be able to accommodate that.
Yeah, I mean, it must be difficult not to be able to take on the water. I know the food, fasting is quite a good thing, apparently. Not that I do it. But, you know, the water thing might be something that they think about. Darwin Núñez seems to be coming good at the moment, doesn't he, Gary? Got the equaliser, won Liverpool's first penalty as well. Do you see his value for Slot at the moment, or do you see him moving at all in the summer? Because he feels like he's coming good.
There's going to be a great headline, which I'm not going to steal, which I think Darren's going to point out in a minute. But I know quite a lot of Liverpool fans who obviously, when he first arrived, were wondering about him, the money that was spent. Was he going to live up to that money? But once again, as Slot has done previously at Feyenoord, getting the best out of a player, seems to be getting the best out of all the players. His relationship with all the players seems better than towards the end Jurgen Klopp was with some of the players, and I think he'll be taking a great deal of pride, particularly in that you know he is getting the best out of an important player for Liverpool now.
Yeah,
he is. And the management of Núñez yesterday was quite interesting because there were a lot of people who felt that at half-time he should have been taken off. He'd lost his head, we'll talk about that in a second, but he just wasn't effective in the game. And if you look at what he's done so far this season, before yesterday's game, he'd only scored 6 goals in 37 appearances. Now, when you consider he cost £85 million, you still can't be waiting for more than that for a player with that expenditure. In context, Real Madrid paid £85 million to Gareth Bale, and he won the multiple Champions Leagues, the Copa del Rey, the title. It was sensational. When you pay that level of money, you expect a lot more consistency. We spoke about Fowler a few weeks ago, just before I think it was the FA Cup tie against Accrington Stanley, I think it was. And he said that you can't still be waiting for him to produce what he has done. If you think about the fact that he arrived the same time as Haaland, Haaland's got 2 golden boots under his belt and is competing for another one. And Núñez is still a Divock Origi type player in many respects, in so much as he's talismanic. He comes on in the odd game and produces a moment, but he should be more than that. He's good enough to be more than that. He's only 25 years of age. There should be more from him. And I think it's patronising him to suggest anything else. The standard you're living up to when you're at Liverpool is consistency. It's Salah, it's all the other players that we see in the league who are able to be relied on in difficult moments for their club. And I think Slot a couple of weeks ago was quite hard on him, but justifiably so, because he is good enough to produce more.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that side of Slot as well. He doesn't mind about ruffling feathers and calling out individuals, which again, something that when we see managers do that, we're all a little bit, ooh, why would you do that? You know, which he's done with Núñez. Was he lucky to be on the pitch, actually? I mean, this foul, was it worthy of a red, do you think?
Well, the thing is, I don't think he could have had many complaints if the referee had produced red. It was petulant, I think it was born out of frustration because, as I say, they were up against Southampton, the worst team statistically and aesthetically in the Premier League. And he wasn't getting in the game. And at that moment, he just lashed out. I think he was very lucky not to have been shown red. Even if you could make the case, I think he made a little bit of a contact with the ball, unless my spectacles are deceiving me. And I think at that moment, you could see in his body language, his head had gone. I was fascinated to see him arrive back on the pitch for the second half.
Yeah.
But that was terrific management from Slot.
Yeah, it certainly was, because they turned the game around and he was integral to that. Let's show this headline then that you've got in terms of the papers. It's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah, colleagues at the Daily Mirror take a bow because the evolution of Darwin, not just yesterday but over this season, into a player that could provide, as I said before, a moment for them. All important. We see the emotion from Slot sat in the stands serving out his ban. And if you look closely on the right-hand side of this graphic, you can see Slot there screaming his elation because that breakthrough that he was able to produce, Darwin, yesterday, that was channeling his anger and frustration in the right way. And as Dunny says, look, Slot might be congratulating himself for sticking with Nunes, or rather he should congratulate himself for sticking with Nunes, because having lost a plot, to be able to get into his head and to help him to stay focused enough to change the game was a moment of genius.
It's been an interesting week. We've heard a lot from Slot, obviously, when they played midweek. We hear them from twice. And he was talking about PSG and said, you know, channeled his inner Michael Jordan, saying that actually if you create your own luck kind of thing against PSG. He said they were very lucky. They've got, obviously, he also described the 3 finals. He called Southampton a final, he called this next game against PSG a final, and of course they do have a final coming up in the Carabao Cup. Will they have to raise their levels? Will they have to find more than what they showed in that first half?
Well, the injury problems aren't really there this season, are they, compared to last season? I think they're going to win those 3 finals. They've won one of them already. I don't know, it's a bit of a stretch to call Southampton at home a final, but I guess...
I like this, but like, I actually can see why he did it. I can, only because sometimes we come on shows and we're really diplomatic about the prospects of a team in a game. But I remember earlier this season when Liverpool played an absolutely horrendous Manchester United side, and everyone expected it to be 4s and 5s and 6s. And United were terrific on the day. And they really did defy the odds, quite literally. And so I just think that what Slot wanted to do is say to his players, don't turn up expecting to win. Respect the game, respect the opponents, work for the points and earn the right to be able to play your game. And also he sent a message out to the fans as well. Don't just turn up seconds before the game expecting us to win. We need your support in this moment so that we can continue that culture of winning. And I think he was right to do that, because it was a struggle against Southampton. 58 places between the 2 teams. Sorry, points, I should say, places.
That's a big Premier League.
Exclusive. 58 points between the 2 teams, but they really did turn up at Anfield. And if you consider Liverpool lost to Forest at Anfield, but everyone expected them to win earlier this season, I think he's right to describe it as a final. This is a crucial stage of the season.
I think there's confidence there, and luck's a factor as well in these things. I think things are going Liverpool's way. Slot probably didn't agree at the end of the match at Goodison, but they are. I mean, penalties, for example, 9 penalties Liverpool have had this season. That's more than Manchester City, Manchester United and Arsenal put together. Put together, they've had 7. So I think everything coming together, it's going to be a good week for Liverpool, I think.
Sometimes you need a little bit of luck, I think, in terms of getting things like the Premier League and the Champions League and maybe the Carabao Cup. Look, Jurgen Klopp has been speaking this week, and he is sometimes tongue-in-cheek, but I actually think he's quite serious about this. If they win, he says he's going to be there, not necessarily on the bus, but Jurgen Klopp will turn up, maybe as part of the cheering crowd. Is he right to? Is that the right thing to do?
I was fascinated by this one, because obviously he is much loved, and you know, there isn't anywhere that Jurgen Klopp would not be welcome at Anfield. But this is a fabulous first season for a man that many people felt would struggle to fill the boots of a legendary figure at Anfield.
Could you imagine us having this conversation in the summer?
Well, exactly. It just, you wouldn't have had it.
No.
And I just think this is Arne Slot's moment. He's earned it. He's managed the side superbly. He has demolished the opposition in the Premier League. He's arrived at a final in the Carabao Cup, and he has topped the Champions League stage table, and they're still in the game. In fact, they're leading against a PSG side that should have torn them apart because of his inspired substitution. You can't take the moment away from him. If Klopp turns up, everybody loves Klopp.
Yeah,
everybody loves him.
Fans love him, don't they?
So, I think he's got more self-awareness than to do that. We respect and love Klopp. He would not be welcome. But would you really want to take the moment and the attention away from the man who has done so brilliantly in his first season?
Do you think he would take the attention away if he turned up?
I think he would, yeah, because I think he's still a hero with the fans. He won a Premier League, don't forget, but he won it in COVID, so he didn't have the chance to celebrate his Premier League victory. So maybe, I'm sure that is a part of it. And it's a bit of free advertising for his drinks brand, isn't it?
I mean, isn't it?
You said that, not me.
Isn't there a kind of manager code where you just kind of, you know, I'm gonna leave him to it.
I don't know.
And let him have his moment.
I don't know.
Would you turn up? Would you?
Of course I would. No, I don't think I would. I don't think I would, but I want to.
I think the fans
really
would
want
like
to.
it. I think the fans would like it.
Yeah, I think they will. I think they'll forgive
You'd
him.
love
And I
to,
think
but-
he will, because just, I don't know, it's like a big Liverpool loving. Anyway.